plunging downhill here. You can see quite a narrow circuit. Cars pouring out onto the circuit at this stage. Everyone using the soft rubber and preparing for the first push laps in Q1. And then you see how narrow it is at this point. I always think of the Ferradura, the corner that we're operating through. That is so good on the opening lap because there's barely anywhere to place your car. How is it from behind the wheel, Marcel? Is this one that you can enjoy once the race develops into a rhythm and the first lap can be a little bit hairy?
Yeah, it can. I mean, it has a nice flow, so usually most drivers enjoy Brazil, I think, from the past, remembering Freddie doesn't, but he still won a race here, so yeah. And also for the viewers, if you see these drivers go from left to right, it's not because they're heating up the tires, it's because they're happy to be on track.
Okay, Barry Boroman is building up for a push lap. He's not the only one. Thomas Gal. The Haas have had good one-lap pace all year. It's just not translated when we've added a bit of fuel and gone into race conditions.
Yeah, and again, we saw that in Mexico. Gal was P8 and then dropped 4 positions at the end of lap 1. So Haas need to work out their race strategy, their race pace, where they have lacked. I mean, when we say lack, they lack maybe a 10th. But that is the difference between points and no points in this series.
Marcel, will you talk us round? We're on board with Barry Boroman.
I mean, there's a lot of speed already into the uphill section of the middle section. Now it's getting tricky. You don't want to lock the rears too much, but you also want to get the rear stepping out a little bit for the right hand and now into the left. Another difficult corner coming up because you want to, like you see, carry as much speed as possible, lock the wheel and get early on the power. The tires start to overheat at this point. Now the final corner, it's so crucial to attack it as much as possible. Is he taking some inside curve? Yes, he is. That's some good traction. I think that's already looking like a decent lap. Only turn 4.
Tell us about the inside, because now we're flat to the line.
Yeah.
Inside curb debate at turn 12. Tell us about it. Were you surprised to see him use it? Did you use the inside curb?
I mean, yes. In some games, we had to. On some games, we didn't, because it depends how much grip the curbs have. And it looks like there's some decent grip around there. And Nicolas Longuet, one of his, if not his strongest track, being on provisional pole in Q1.
Yeah, Longuet ahead of Boroman. So good to have Marcel here to debate the things that, that have changed game to game, changed through the era. Are you going to touch that curve? Are you going to hook around that corner? All these minor things that when we're going to get a session as close as this one, Matt, make a huge difference where you get to where Thomas Ronhaar, former championship leader, current fastest man, has crossed the line. It all adds up.
Now Otis Lawrence has gone fastest in Q1 as well. It certainly does add up. Freddie Rasmussen crosses the beam P6. Jarno Opmeer, of course, championship leader now. Can he get in a good Q1 and make it safely through these first couple of hurdles? It's P4 at the moment, which is good enough. Manley's been fantastic in qualifying, but that is a lap he will want to improve on in this second run. Of course, all the drivers leave it so late that they'll have one extra attempt if they fancy it. Otis Lawrence, you may well expect to see retire. And actually, Marcel, I'm quite surprised. It's nearly 4 tenths separating the top 18, and that's bigger than we tend to see around Brazil.
Honestly, if we remove the top 3, I think it's a very close qualifying. These 3 are definitely through. I think Jarno Opmeer is still under risk. So from Jarno, if we ignore the top 3 until P15, it's actually still quite close. It's 1.5 tenths between them, and I think that's more like the more realistic range. But obviously, it's a difficult track to nail. So if the drivers are not fully hooked in, those are the first few laps that they do on this day.
He's making his debut, and Fab Donoso, who is back in for Duncan Hoffland in the Aston Martin. So they're the drivers on the cusp of heading out. Yeah, Tom Manley, who has been such a consistent qualifier. Jake Benham in the Mercedes as well. Finds himself in that position. As predicted, Nicolas Longuet has no interest in going out there and seeing how the track conditions are. He's done enough to get through, but who in this very talented gaggle is going to be able to ease their way through? Ishmael Fassi in 8th place, not too far off, but there's the, if you look at the gaps all the way down from Barry Boroman, it shows that the track will improve at this stage, and everyone out there has to find an improvement.
Big session for Mercedes. They had a poor day by their standards yesterday. Of course, Jake Benham coming into the car to replace Istvan Pukki for this particular Grand Prix. And Benham has been brilliant in the 3 races he's participated in. Can he make it an excellent 4th as well? Currently 12th. There's a bit of pressure on him for sure. We'll keep an eye on the sector times as they come in. But Benham, 12th at the moment.
Okay, the P1 man is out of this session. He's going to be comfortably through into Q2. Let's hear the fastest driver on how to put a good lap together.
That's a pretty good lap.
All right, thought we were going to get
Wow.
more detail than that.
Big insight.
Alas, the build-up was longer than the team radio. 30 seconds to go. Game on. Jake Benham, a picture of concentration in the Mercedes. Let's see if it's neat and tidy. You can see top right of your picture that he's improving compared to his previous lap time.
400 slower than the best we've seen in the first sector. He's 700ths up on his overall, but that is a steady middle sector from Benham. How is his final sector going to be? It's a long run to the line. Did he get the exit he wants?
No, he didn't.
I don't think he did. Marcel pointing out that it's not quite as effective as he would like. He does get that improvement, 6th position. That will do. Let's see where we go with Joni Tormula across the line. He is able to go up to 5th. So that shows you that Benham potentially a little bit under pressure, but a good lap for the Alpine driver returning. Barry Burman is back into the pits. He's not intrigued with getting that lap on the board. Lucas Blakely now moves to 6th position. He finds himself P6 at the moment. Ismail Fassi, top 3 in the points coming into this, goes into 8th place.
Lots of laps coming over the line. Fassi should be okay there. He's got drivers behind. Donoso is out. Manley is out as well.
That's a bit of a
What
shock.
about Hardy?
And you've got Benham in 14th, Butcher in 15th. Danny Beresnay currently in the drop zone. He was. It's now Butcher in the drop zone. Benham is the driver that we followed over the line first, currently on the bubble. Alfie Butcher is coming in. Alfie Butcher will not progress. He is the shock name to fall in the first part of qualifying, and it will be Butcher, Donoso, Manley and Tayo Hardy who exit in the first part of qualifying.
A couple of big scalps there, for sure, with Butcher and Manley. Manley's been, as we said, brilliant in qualifying this year. That's very surprising to see him out, and it wasn't even, by F1 sim racing standards, that close. Of course, Manley, quarter of a second back, and the cut-off was 0.161 with Jake Benham, who narrowly gets through to the second part of qualifying. There's Hardy. It's showing to be quite difficult in that second seat at Sauber. Brendan Lee struggled this year, and Hardy also. P19 for him on the grid. Marcel, what were your takeaways?
I mean, it's just, in general, again, super, super tight. Not as tight as usual, but you can see the pressure is building up, and every driver, every single year expects, because this track is so short, that the gaps are way shorter, and then at the end of qualifying, everyone's like, oh my god, I could have been on pole, I could have been on pole, because everybody is choking for some reason on Brazil. It's so tricky, even though it has some nice flow to it. It's a classic track. So on classic tracks, it seems like most of the drivers are usually tending to make more mistakes, and you can see that clearly here.
Well, Alfie Butcher, Fab Donoso, Tom Manley and Tayo Hardy are the drivers to fall. 4 to go in the first part of qualifying. Fastest was Otis Lawrence, who booked his place in Q2 nice and early. Williams tried to find the form that they had at the start of the year, when it was just pole after pole after pole for Ismail Fassi, who was able to constantly run at the front of the field. That pace is ebbing away. On the left-hand side, you can see that El Soderim not competing. He is been forced out of this session as per his penalty from yesterday. Tayo Hardy in 19th, and it's Manley, Fab Donoso and Alfie Butcher who is the driver eliminated, and he will start our race later on today in 16th position. He is speaking right now to Claire Cottingham.
More disappointment, Alfie, it has to be said, in terms of your qualifying this week. What happened this time? Did you just not hook it up? What kind of went on?
Yeah, so I think preparing for the final lap, it was quite stacked at the last corner, where there was a lot of people backing up to start their laps, and our tyres froze up in the rear, and we sort of made a mistake straight away because we just didn't have the grip going into turn 1.
Was that a surprise for you guys, though? Because you've tested this constantly, this track.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake on my behalf as well, so I think it's important to just put it behind us and we look forward to the race.
Talk to me about the qualifying at the moment then. Obviously, yesterday was a bit of a struggle. Today's a struggle. Is it something that's just catching you guys out at the moment?
Yeah, I think at times it just hasn't come together in the sessions, and I think we haven't executed how we wanted to. So I think we look to improve in the final 2 qualifyings of the season.
Okay, there was a moment that you were quite disappointed. Let's just hear from you.
God's sake.
Yeah, unlucky.
Invalidated turn 2.
We'll have to cook something up in the race.
On top.
Yeah, I just had no tyres. Like, how am I meant to do?
Very disappointed on the radio. It's quite a lot as well to hear you being so vocal on the radio in your disappointment. Usually the McLaren philosophy is kind of carry on, and yet you sounded quite defeated.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's frustrating to have 2 tough qualifyings back to back, but yeah, it is what it is. We put it behind us and we move on.
Where do we go with the race?
Yeah, I think obviously yesterday we came back into the points, so it's always possible to come back. We've done it before, Australia as well, so we'll look to get our way into the points and hopefully finish them with some positives.
Okay, disappointing to speak to you now, but good luck for the race.
Thank you.
Cottingham in conversation with
Life
an understandably
timing.
downbeat Alfie Butcher, who will try and,
I think Benham.
well, I think he will
Yep.
hope that it's a one of those wet races
Yep.
where anything can happen in Sao Paulo.
Exactly that. Reflecting on Q1, has to be said, Otis Lawrence, impressive work to do 1 lap, Otis Lawrence in the Aston Martin, and remain fastest in Q1. So that'll be filling the confidence meter for Lawrence, who has a very, very quick driver in qualifying as the cars filter out of the pits for their first run in Q2. A lot of them, as you can see right there. And of course, some of these drivers will be going out on a used set just to put in some kind of banker lap. As we take a look at Alvaro Carreton safely through to Q2. What can he do in the Williams alongside Fassi, championship contender?
Yeah, Alvaro Carreton competed for a number of years. He sat out a couple of races so far this season, and his best qualifying result coming at the end of event 2, when he found himself with the 9th position to start on the grid at the Circuit of the Americas. That will be the aim, and he continues on, about to attack this glorious racetrack into 4.3 kilometers, and the undulations. We've heard from Marcel how difficult these opening corners are. A combination of using curve and keeping the car pointing in the right direction, not losing momentum to any corrections as well. You hear the pip of DRS available in 2 zones around this circuit. Let's look at the curb usage on the outside. Yeah, really nicely judged. He'll be happy with that as he now climbs the hill.
So behind him is Otis Lawrence, who set a very competitive first sector. So was Barry Burman. Carreton a massive half a tenth slower, but these margins are what matter in these qualifying sessions. A lot on the curb there on the inside on that left-hander. Hard on the brakes, hard on the steering lock as well for Carreton. And then it is literally just 1 more braking point to go. Don't dip a wheel on the grass on the right. Try and open up the corner as much as possible. And here comes Alvaro Carreton, who now just waits, tries to minimise the distance to the finish line, keeping on the inside as much as he physically can without getting track limits. And Carreton over the line with a 106.5, which won't really get towards Q3 with that kind of lap, as more laps come over the line now. Gal's gone fastest with a 106.4. Surprisingly, Lawrence actually went slower than that, despite his very quick first sector.
It's Gal, then Benham, then Otis Lawrence, our championship leader, goes to the top of the page for all of a second. It's Longueuil Town, Sao Paulo, and he's gone back to the head of the field.
He loves this place,
He just
doesn't
loves
he?
it. He just adores this circuit, and he's got a great chance of being in the mix. Once again, great early effort, worth underlining that some drivers will have gone out on used tyres. Some will have gone out there on a fresh set of boots. Here's Thomas Ronhaar, taking a very, very direct route to the line and going fast of anyone so far. Driver trying to respond. And Freddie Rasmussen has gone into P3 ahead of his teammate, Jarno Opmeer, who yesterday started in 5th and won the race, currently in 4th. Then it's Gal, Benham, Lawrence and Burmond. You've got Crozen, Edu, Carreton, Fassi down in 12th position. Blakely, Tormala and Danny Beresne has not yet put a time that counts on the board and is coasting around.
Yeah, invalidated a 106.508 Beresne put on the board, but of course did not count due to track limits. And now he is very much trundling back to the pits. No rush for him. And they all, of course, run the absolute minimum fuel load they can to not carry any extra weight. And they just trundle back on these in laps. Ron Hart fastest with a 106.